On the news side, like I said, a very slow time here, coming to a screeching halt. Need National Signing Day to get here sooner rather than later to kind of come up with show topics here. But that's why I got my man Bryan Stutlz on the line. A really, really interesting interview. I mean, he doesn't hold anything back here. He thinks Auburn may have a new head coach soon, and it sounds like Bryan's got the man for the job. So let's kick it over to our interview with Bryan Stutlz. Well, we're pleased to be joined by Bryan Stutlz. Give him a follow, Bryan J. Stutlz on the Twitter machine. He's a staff writer for AuburnSports.com, and we used to work together at Saturday Down South. Bryan, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, absolutely, anytime, Michael.
And hey, I know before we get rolling here, of course I had you on to talk some Auburn football and all the shenanigans going on down there. I got to ask you this because I think the first time you came on my radar before we even started working together, you went golfing with Hugh Freeze. Can you share any backstory on what's it like golfing with Hugh Freeze?
Hugh Freeze has become one of my best friends. He's a great guy, great coach who he's owned up for his mistakes. I go up to Lynchburg at Liberty and visit him all the time, and he always picks up my golf rounds, so I'm appreciative of that. I've beat him a couple times, even though he's given me a couple strokes. But yeah, he's a great guy and a lot of fun to hang out with. And if he gets, it's gonna be really soon before he gets another big job, and I think he can do great things for another SEC school.
Yeah. Oh, well, hey, yeah, this will be the last thing I ask you on that, but just because you referenced it, I wanted to ask you anyway. Do you think that sometime in the future, he's such a good coach, do you think he does find his way back to the SEC?
Oh, absolutely. I know that he wants to be back in the SEC. He wants another chance to rewrite his story. He's just a great coach. I mean, he's turned Malik Willis into a third-string guy, into a first-round pick. He's done amazing things with, what the limited things they have at Liberty, winning 3 straight bowl games, finishing in the top 25 last year. And, yeah, he wants to be back in where he belongs. And, he's a Mississippi boy. So he wants to be back south. And, yeah, I'm rooting for the guy. I mean, I love the guy. I never thought I'd say that because I was always critical of him back in 2016 and 17. Mm-hmm. And now I really like the guy, and I think he deserves another chance to win in the SEC.
Well, shifting gears to the program you know the best in the league, I believe you graduated from Auburn. Of course, you live down there covering the team. What went so wrong for Bryan Harsin and company towards the tail end of that season? Because I think too many people forget that they were in control of their own destiny in the West, heading into November, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, 6-2. They were in charge of their own destiny. Then they got kind of ramshackled by Texas A&M at Texas A&M, which is expected, but they still won a SEC West for that. And then they jump out on Mississippi State, 28-3, and then things just go haywire from there. Bo Nix gets hurt. Daniel Carlson gets hurt. There's a lot of miscommunication on between the assistants, I would say. Mm-hmm. Between the SEC guys, the Boise guys. Harsin is bringing in his own guys now. And then the Iron Bowl, the collapse in the Iron Bowl, which was so frustrating to watch because the defense had played the game of their life against Bryce Young and that and talented Alabama team, and then just a bowl game that, yeah, it's just hard to see because it's hard to judge them, but because one, Bo Nix was out for the last 3 games, mm-hmm. And then but still they should beat South Carolina, they should beat Houston with a backup quarterback, and this thing started going downhill. Then Derek Mason left, recently. Mike Bobo was fired. There's been some other staff changes. Harsin's bringing in his own guys that he likes to hang around with and coach with. If that works, fine. If it doesn't, he's going to die with his own guys. But yeah, the attitude around this team and this program right now is pretty darn negative, I would say.
Yeah, so I got to ask you about Derek Mason. You referenced it right there. They just made it official here on Wednesday afternoon. He's going to be the new defensive coordinator at Oklahoma State. And I know they had a good year. I'm not trying to diminish what they are, but I think in most people's eyes, Auburn is a lot better football program than Oklahoma State. So what do you make of all that, of Derek Mason leaving for a lateral at best job?
From all I've heard is that he was miserable the entire season, and that he was sick a couple of times. He might or might not have passed out at halftime of the bowl game, but he was miserable most of the time. He didn't get along with some of the guys on the staff, maybe Harsin, and he just wanted a change. And I like the guy, rooting for him. I thought it was a good hire. He's kind of changed the defense this year, and they had a little trouble with the zone, especially in the secondary at times. But he's a good guy. I wish him the best.
Now, what do you make of, you kind of already referenced it, but all the coaching turnover at Auburn, is that a sign of trouble? Is it maybe Harsin getting guys on the same page? Because it's hard. This is an SEC-wide show, and you look at Tennessee, you look at South Carolina, similar situations. Those two programs got so much momentum under their second-year coaches, where it's almost the exact opposite for Bryan Harsin. Just where do you think the program's going, basically, is what I'm trying to ask.
I think Harsin just wants his own guys and the guys that he can bring in on his own. Mm-hmm. I think he was kind of pressured to hire some SEC guys, a la Mason, a la Bobo. Mm-hmm. I think he was kind of pressured into that because, look, he's from Boise. He's never coached in the SEC. He has no experience in this conference, which is the best conference in the world. And it's a big, 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 big time job. It's a major step up from Boise or Arkansas State or wherever he was. This is a top 15 program of all time. And he's also struggling with maybe the deficit of he stepped into a canyon where the previous staff didn't recruit as well as they should have, especially on the offensive line. The offensive line was horrible this year, and it will continue to be horrible unless they sign some big guys. They have a couple guys coming back, but, at 6-2, it looks all gravy. But now, with all these changes in that 5-game losing streak, it looks like he's already on the hot seat, and that's something that Auburn fans are known for, is the hot seat. So, Malzahn pretty much lived on that for a long time. I love Gus Malzahn, great guy, but people are arguing that it wasn't time to get rid of him. I think it was time to get rid of him, but I don't think they made the right hire. Mm-hmm. I think they need to go with someone who has experience. Maybe my guy Hugh. I'm not saying, but just someone who has the SEC experience and knows what they're doing and has dealt with it and won with it before. And like someone told me when Harsin was hired, Kirby Smart and Nick Saban are not losing sleep over him being hired.
Right.
That is what you want the hire to be, is them being like, oh, crap, there's a new competitor here. And, with Georgia and Alabama being so much higher in the level of Auburn, the two biggest rivals, it's hard to fathom at times like this.
Yeah, that's a great point, because we all know Hugh Freeze, his success against Nick Saban in Alabama. There was speculation he tried to hire him as an offensive coordinator. There was also reports that Georgia brought in Hugh to be a consultant. So I think you might have just hit the right on the mark. That's a guy that both Kirby Smart and Nick Saban have a ton of respect for. And so you basically already answered this question, but I can't believe that I had to even ask it. But because I was ready to give Harsin Coach of the Year at 6-2.
Yeah, of course.
Does he have to have a winning season, you think, next season to keep his job on the Plains?
Absolutely, I think so, because he has not won much fan support around here. You look at Bruce Pearl, best example. It took time with them. Basically, I'm not comparing football and basketball here because basketball is given more time, but Bruce went out and did things. He went out and was in a dunk tank the first week on campus, and he won fan support and stuff like that. Harsin hasn't done that. and he doesn't feel like I don't think he feels like he needs to do that, because if he wins, he wins. But if they have a losing record next year, which is very possible looking at their schedule, they have to go to Georgia, they have to go to Alabama, they play LSU, they have to play Texas A&M, they play Penn State at home. I mean, that's pretty much. That's a tough schedule right there, and it's just hard to see him surviving another year, being an outsider, one, and then having two losing seasons in a row. That's just not going to get the job done, and it's not going to be accepted here.
Now, there's no way for you to know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Who do you think is the starting quarterback when the season starts? Because you got TJ Finley, you got transfer Zach Calzada and Robbie Ashford, who's from Oregon. And then, of course, we can't forget Demetrius Davis, who was a touted freshman last year. Which one of those do you think will get the nod? Of course, this is just a pure guess on your part.
I would say Calzada is the leader right now, just because of his experience playing at Texas A&M. Finley's not the answer for this offense, not for this team. Demetrius Davis, who knows? We saw him in practice. And that was it. We never saw him appear in a game, even with Finley suffering an injury in the Iron Bowl, when basically Auburn just needed one first down to win the game. And it's just insane that he didn't see the field. This Ashford kid has not played quarterback or been on the field for, I don't think 2 years. He's more of a baseball guy, but, he's highly talented. But right now I think it's Calzada's job to lose. But I don't think it's very clear who's going to win this. I think it's going to go to fall camp.
All right, last thing for you, Bryan. I really appreciate all your time. If I'm not mistaken, it was in Washington State. You covered Mike Leach. Can you share some insight into what it's like life covering Mike Leach football team?
Well, covering Mike Leach was a very difficult thing because he kind of shunned me because of my boss. It was a very weird experience for me. I'll tell you more off the air. But, he's a great guy. I still stay in contact with him. He invited me out to cover, in fact, his last game at Washington State. We didn't know at the time, but he invited me to shadow him for 3 days for a feature that I ended up writing for SEC Country, or not SEC Country, my bad, Saturday Down South. And, he's a great guy. You never know where the conversation is going to go. I got to sit in one of those quarterback meetings where he was talking about, Will Clark and Mississippi State, which turned out to be an omen, and then he turns his attention to me. I'm like, well, how the hell did I get the attention here? but he's a great guy. He always invites me down to Key West. He's a great coach. I think he'll start winning big at Mississippi State, and he's been very, very kind to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really appreciate it. He's Bryan Stutlz. Give him a follow at Bryan J. Stutlz and check out all his work at AuburnSports.com. Bryan, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Anytime, my friend.
All right, so I really appreciate Bryan joining the line. Once again, you can follow him at Bryan J. Stutlz, and that's in the podcast show notes. But, man, what insight there. The Derek Mason stuff I had not heard. Clearly, he thinks that, things do not seem to be trending in the right direction there on the Plains, as I've kind of indicated, but it's great to hear it from someone with boots on the ground that covers the team on a daily basis. Really interesting insight there from Bryan, and cannot wait to see where that thing's going. And he told me at the end of the call, after we got off the line recording, next time some kind of disaster happens down on the Plains, he's going to hop back on the show because he thinks it may not be long before something pops there. So, hey, I really appreciate Bryan coming on the show and giving us a candid interview there. But that's all we got on this episode. I do got one more guest interview lined up for Friday's show. Should be a pretty fun one. And then Shane and I are off to Orlando, but we're going to try to have a couple of shows next week anyway. Going to pre-record them. We've got some recruiting talk, and we got a little special episode set to air on Monday, so be on the lookout for that. We may be on vacation, but the show does not stop. But, hey, that's all we got on this one. I appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out. We'll catch you on the next one.